Let me tell you a story about a trap. A trap you walked into willingly, one you may not even know was sprung around your mind. You were told it was harmless, an indulgence, a private amusement. You were never told the terrifying truth that you have been feeding your most ancient survival drive a poison disguised as a feast, that you have been handing the keys to your brain's command center to an illusion. Consider for a moment the primal engine within your skull, the reward circuit. It is a simple, brutal, and effective system forged over millions of years. See food when you are starving. Dopamine. Find a mate. Dopamine. Achieve a hard-won victory. Dopamine. This chemical is not pleasure itself. It is the signal, the promise, the intense driving force that screams this. Do this again. Remember this path. It is vital for your survival. It is the reason our ancestors struggled, fought, and built. It is the fire of human motivation. Now, consider the modern world. We have learned to shortcut this system. Refined sugar hijacks it, slot machines hijack it, social media notifications hijack it, all pale imitations. But there is one shortcut that is not an imitation. It is a perfect, targeted digital replica of the most powerful drive we possess, the sexual instinct. And it has been weaponized. This is not about the flickering images of decades past. This is about the neurological storm of the modern feed, unlimited, on-demand, ever novel, and escalating in its intensity. With a few clicks, you present your brain with what evolution prepared it to seek over a lifetime, a parade of perfect, receptive, novel mates, except they are not real. Your brain, however, your brain does not know that. It cannot know that. It receives the signal. It unleashes the torrent. And so the trap is sprung. You pull the lever, and the dopamine floods the system, a supernova in the neural pathways. The brain is ecstatic. It has, it believes, hit the ultimate evolutionary jackpot. So it obeys its prime directive. It adapts. It downregulates. To protect itself from this constant barrage, it reduces the number of dopamine receptors. It dulls the sensitivity. That first video, that first image, it will never hit the same way again. You need more. You need newer. You need more extreme. Not because you are depraved, because you are desensitized. Your brain is following its own rules to survive what it perceives as an overwhelming abundance. This is the digital drug. It is not a metaphor. It is a clinical description. The same neural pathways that light up for cocaine, for heroin, for the desperate gamble, they are firing for the pixelated illusion. You are not watching a movie. You are administering a neurochemical injection directly into the reward center. And with each injection, you are teaching your brain a terrifying new lesson, that the greatest reward, the most vital prize, can be found not in connection, not in effort, not in the messy, beautiful struggle of real human intimacy, but in solitude, in a screen, in a click. The terrifying truth you were never told is that this was the design. The endless novelty, the escalating categories, the algorithmic suggestions, they are not for your pleasure, they are for your capture. They are the bars of the cage engineered to exploit a vulnerability in your operating system you never knew you had. You sought a moment of escape, and you handed a scheming puppeteer the strings to your own drive. They have made a puppet of your will, and the stage is the empty glow of your private shame. Now, you must decide if you will cut the strings. So the trap is set. The wires are buried deep in the reward centers of your mind, but a trap is merely a device. It waits. It is the consequence of the springing that breaks the bone. The poison is not in the taste, but in the slow, certain ruin it works upon the body. And this poison, it has a target. It is rewiring the very core of your desire, turning your strength into a weakness, your drive into a cage of frustration. You believe you are exploring a landscape of endless possibility. You are not. You are conducting a grim and methodical experiment on your own capacity for connection. Each click, each new tab, each escalation, it is a data point. And the result of the experiment is a simple, brutal equation. The more you feed the digital phantom, the less you are able to connect with the living flesh. Your biology has a rule, a law, forged in the stone of our survival. It is called the Coolidge effect. It states that a male's sexual interest is reignited by the introduction of a new, receptive female. It is the biological engine for novelty. In the natural world, this engine had limits: distance, time, reality. But the digital world removes all limits. It gives you 1,000 new partners in an hour, 1,000,000 in a year. And with each one, you are not satisfying a drive. You are training it. You are conditioning it, like one of Pavlov's dogs, to salivate not for a real meal, but for the endless, shifting promise of the next one. And so the rewiring begins. The neural pathways that once fired for the scent, the touch, the imperfect, breathing reality of a single human being, they are being rerouted, repurposed. They now fire for the flicker of the screen, for the specific, curated, and impossible angles, for the seamless, edited fantasy where there is no self-consciousness, no need for patience, no requirement for empathy or skill or tenderness. You are building a template, a blueprint for arousal made entirely of ghosts, and then you turn to a real person, and the system fails. It is not a matter of attraction. It is a matter of circuitry. The real person is slow. They are nuanced. They have a voice that is not a soundtrack. They have skin that is not airbrushed. They have needs and fears and a complexity that the digital phantom meticulously erases. Your brain, now wired for the supernormal stimulus, looks at this beautiful, flawed human reality, and it whispers, "This is not enough. Where is the next? Where is the novelty? Where is the endless, effortless variety?" And the body obeys the brain. The connection fails. The spark fizzles. This is not a metaphor. They are measuring it now. Young men, in their prime, are finding themselves incapable with a living, willing partner. Studies whisper the number, 1 in 2 in some cases. A generation is being quietly, systematically, robbed of its own natural function, convinced it is broken when it has merely been reprogrammed. But the poison does not stop at dysfunction. It demands escalation. When the vanilla world no longer triggers the overloaded circuits, the search begins for something sharper, something darker, more taboo. The categories shift. The searches grow more desperate. You tell yourself you are just curious, exploring. You are not. You are following a pre-written script of addiction, searching for a chemical hit that your desensitized brain can still feel. The harmless fun of yesterday becomes the boring prerequisite for today. And tomorrow requires something you once would have found unthinkable. This is not you becoming more liberated. This is you becoming more desperate. The trap is not just capturing you. It is shrinking around you. The terrifying truth you were never told is that this private habit is not private at all. It is a theft. It is stealing from your future self. It is stealing your ability to be present, to be vulnerable, to be truly ignited by another human soul. It is replacing the profound, messy, powerful connection of intimacy with a lonely, silent transaction with a machine. You are trading a birthright of fire for the cold, empty light of a screen. And the question you must now ask in the silence is this: will you remain a prisoner of the ghosts you have invited into your mind, or will you tear down the template and reclaim the wiring of your own desire? The wires are laid. The poison is in the system, rewiring the very machinery of wanting. But listen to me now. The greatest trick this devil in the machine ever pulled was convincing you it was a teacher, a liberator, a harmless window into a world of pleasure. It told you a story about sex, and you believed it. But every story it tells is a lie, and every lie is designed to do one thing: isolate you from the truth of another human being. It sells you a fantasy of intimacy without vulnerability, of conquest without courtship, of release without responsibility. It presents a world where every person is a willing, endlessly capable, one-dimensional object, existing solely for a function. A world stripped of all context, of conversation, of connection, of shared silence, of the quiet courage it takes to truly see someone and be seen. It is not an exploration of passion, it is a demolition of it. It replaces the sacred, terrifying, electric dance of two souls with the cold, silent, sterile transaction of one person and a screen full of ghosts. And you have learned its lessons. You have memorized its script. It has taught you that sex is a performance, a series of acts, not a language of connection. You have been trained to spectate, to judge, to compare both yourself and any potential partner against an army of digital professionals, airbrushed illusions. It whispers that your worth is tied to a ridiculous performative stamina, that your partner is a checklist of body parts and compliant noises. It erases the person and leaves only the puppet. And you become the lonely puppeteer in an empty theater. This is the great deception. It calls itself a sexual aid, but its true function is to make real sex impossible. Because real sex requires presence. It requires you to be there, in the awkward, trembling, glorious mess of it, to navigate another person's humanity, to communicate without words, to stumble, to laugh, to be unsure. The phantom in the screen offers you none of that. It offers you control, total, absolute, effortless control. You curate the experience. You skip the parts that bore you. You demand a perfection that no human being can provide. And in doing so, you are not preparing yourself for intimacy. You are building an arsenal of expectations that will destroy it. You begin to see people not as mysteries to be known, but as objects to be assessed. Their value is reduced to how closely they match the digital template now burned into your mind. Their humanity becomes an inconvenience. Their needs become a burden. Their individuality becomes a flaw because it does not conform to the seamless edited fantasy. This poison does not just warp your desire. It corrodes your empathy. It trains you to be a consumer of people, not a partner to them. It teaches you to take, not to share, to use, not to connect. And the most sinister lie of all, it makes you believe this isolation is strength, that this selfish, silent consumption is a form of power. It is not. It is the ultimate weakness. It is you, alone in the dark, mistaking the echo of your own distorted wiring for the sound of the world. You are trading the terrifying, beautiful risk of real love, with all its potential for pain and transcendent joy, for the guaranteed, hollow, and predictable hit of a digital drug. You are choosing a prison of your own making and calling it freedom. The terrifying truth you are never told is that this phantom is not just stealing your function. It is stealing your heart. It is replacing the capacity for love with a recipe for use. It is making you a stranger to the very thing you are chasing. The choice is stark. Will you continue to be a student of the lie, mastering a fantasy that leaves you alone? Or will you find the courage to be a novice again in the difficult, beautiful, and real world of human touch? So you are isolated. Your desires rewired for ghosts, your capacity for real connection, eroded by a relentless, perfect illusion. But the trap has a deeper chamber still. The poison does not merely stay in the realm of the sexual. It seeps, it drains, it colors everything. You believe you are engaging in a private, compartmentalized vice, a secret room in the mansion of your mind. You are wrong. That room has a cracked foundation, and the black mold of apathy is spreading to every other room, until the entire structure is hollow, cold, and filled with a fog you cannot seem to escape. Think of your motivation, your drive, the fire that makes you strive, create, push through difficulty to achieve something meaningful. That fire is fed by the same fuel, the dopamine, the reward circuit, that you are now burning through in nightly silent binges to digital phantoms. You are pouring the high-octane fuel of your ambition into a ghost, and then you wonder why you have no fuel left for the race of your own life. The world seems grayer, doesn't it? The hobbies that once sparked joy now feel like chores. The goals that once lit a fire in your chest now feel distant, theoretical, impossible to start. This is not laziness. This is not a simple lack of discipline. This is a neurological deficit. They call it anhedonia, the inability to feel pleasure from ordinary rewards. You have exhausted your brain's capacity for wanting on the endless, effortless digital buffet. Why would it then muster the energy to want the hard-won, delayed gratification of a real-world achievement? It will not. It has been spoiled. Then comes the fog, the mental haze, a constant low-grade static in the back of your mind. Your memory feels slippery. Your concentration is shattered, pulled in 1,000 directions, always tugged back toward the secret room, the promise of the next hit. You sit to read, to work, to simply think, and a nervous, anxious energy crawls up your spine. A phantom itch in your brain. You are in a state of perpetual, low-grade withdrawal, your system crying out for the supernormal stimulus it has been taught to expect. This is your brain on porn. Not clear, not sharp, not your own. It is a brain perpetually distracted, perpetually depleted, perpetually searching for a phantom fix while the real world slips through its fingers. And beneath it all, the shadow, the quiet, creeping sense of shame that follows you from that secret room. It taints your self-respect. It makes you avoid your own eyes in the mirror. You carry it into every interaction, a hidden ledger of guilt that tells you you are not who you pretend to be. This secret war you are fighting in the darkness bleeds out. It manifests as social anxiety, a fear of being truly known, because if you are known, this secret might be seen. It feeds a pervasive sadness, a disconnect, because you are living a double life, and one of those lives is a lie sold to you by strangers in a boardroom. The depression, the anxiety, they are not separate from your habit. They are its exhaust fumes, poisoning the atmosphere of your own mind. You tell yourself it is an escape, relief from stress, a way to unwind. But you are not escaping into anything. You are escaping from the boredom you yourself created by dulling your senses, from the anxiety you yourself amplified by wiring your brain for constant novelty, from the difficult, beautiful, painful work of building a real life. It is a feedback loop of emptiness. You feel flat, so you seek the hit. The hit makes you flatter, so you need a bigger one. And on, spiraling down, while the world outside, the world of sun and struggle and genuine human triumph, grows quieter and more distant. The terrifying truth you were never told is that this is a zero-sum game. The energy you give to the phantom is stolen from your life. Your vitality, your clarity, your peace, your ambition. They are the price of admission to that empty theater. You are not indulging in a sin. You are conducting a slow-motion neurological suicide, trading your potential for a pathetic private simulation of life. So you must ask yourself, is the fog, the flatness, the silent shame, is that the price you are willing to pay to keep feeding the ghost? Or will you choose, however painfully, to walk out of the fog and feel the sharp, clear, and real air of your own life again? Look beyond your own screen, beyond your private shame. The static in your mind is not an isolated signal. It is a frequency broadcast to millions. The trap in your head has been mass-produced. The wires you feel tangling your desires are being laid in the minds of an entire generation. This is not just a personal crisis. It is a quiet, systemic dismantling of the very fabric of how we connect, how we see each other, how we love. We are not dealing with individual failings. We are witnessing a social engineering project of terrifying scale. You were told it was a private choice, that what you did in the dark was your own business. That was the second greatest lie, because nothing that rewires the fundamental human drives of millions of people stays private. It leaks, it spills over, it becomes the cultural water we all swim in. The images, the scripts, the brutal transactional view of human relationships you have internalized, they are being internalized by the boy sitting next to you in class, by the girl scrolling on her phone, by an entire cohort learning about intimacy from the coldest, most cynical teachers imaginable, algorithms designed for profit, not for humanity. What do those algorithms teach? They teach that bodies are commodities, to be rated, ranked, and consumed. They teach that consent is a blurry line to be pushed, not a sacred boundary to be honored. They normalize acts of degradation and violence by presenting them not as aberrations, but as just another menu option in the buffet of kink. They erase context, history, emotion, and consequence, leaving only a sterile, brutal mechanics. And then we act surprised when a generation raised on this curriculum struggles to understand real intimacy. When young men approach women with a sense of warped entitlement, their expectations shaped by 1,000 scenes of instant, effortless submission. When young women believe their value is tied to a pornographic standard of appearance and performance, a standard that is airbrushed, surgically altered, and literally impossible. This is the fallout. We are creating a marketplace of human flesh in our collective imagination, and then wondering why respect has vanished. The data is no longer whispering, it is screaming. They are finding the patterns. The earlier the exposure, the more hardened the views. The more regular the consumption, the greater the acceptance of aggression, the greater the likelihood of seeing partners as objects. This is not a moral panic. It is a clinical observation of cause and effect on a societal scale. We are passively allowing a for-profit industry to conduct a mass-scale psychological experiment on our children, on our brothers, on ourselves, and calling it entertainment. And the most dangerous part, the silence, the conspiracy of politeness that treats this plague as a harmless quirk. We will have national debates about every other toxin that affects our youth, but we avert our eyes from this one, because it is cloaked in the ragged banner of free expression and sexual freedom. But there is no freedom in addiction. There is no liberation in a script written by exploiters. We are trading the hard-won, beautiful, complicated progress of genuine sexual understanding for a cheap, prefabricated, and deeply corrosive counterfeit. We are raising a generation fluent in the grammar of porn, but illiterate in the language of love. This is terrifying truth. You were never told on a societal level. You are not just a user. You are a cell in a vast sickened body. Your private struggle, your desensitization, your warped template, it is not yours alone. It is a shared symptom of a culture that has outsourced its most intimate education to the darkest corners of the internet. The loneliness you feel is not an accident, it is by design. Isolated consumers are compliant consumers. Broken connectors do not build strong communities. They remain alone and easily managed. So the question expands. It is no longer just about whether you will remain in the fog. It is about what world that fog will create as it thickens around us all. Will we continue to be passive patients, accepting the poisoning of our collective psyche? Or will we, individually and together, reject the lie, cut the wires, and demand a reality built on something truer, something harder, and something infinitely more real than the ghosts in the machine? Now, you see the trap, you feel the wires, you taste the poison in the well of your own mind. You have followed the path of the lie all the way to its desolate end. But this is where they miscalculated. They sold you a story of permanent damage, of a point of no return. They want you to believe the wiring is final, that the path is burned in forever, that you are a product finished and flawed of your own consumption. That is their ultimate lie, and it is the one you must now tear apart with your bare hands, because your brain is not a stone tablet. It is not a circuit board etched in permanence. It is a living forest, a dense, wild, ever-changing landscape of pathways. Yes, you have worn a deep, muddy, desperate trail to a poisoned spring. You have walked it so many times that it seems like the only path. It feels like your nature. But it is not. It is just a habit. A deeply etched neurological habit. And beneath that dying trail, the rest of the forest remains, waiting, alive, capable of new growth. This is the final and most powerful truth, neuroplasticity. Your brain's inherent defiant ability to change, to heal, to rewire itself based on what you do, not what you watch, what you do. The poison demanded passivity, consumption. The antidote is action. It is the conscious, deliberate, and brutally difficult work of letting the old trail grow over. They call it a reboot for a reason. It is a hard reset, a period of abstaining, not as a punishment, but as a necessary silence. You must stop the noise to hear the old songs again. For 90 days, for 100, however long it takes, you starve the phantom. You refuse to feed it, and in that refusal, a miracle happens. The dopamine receptors, once dulled and downregulated, begin to wake up. They resensitize. The static begins to clear. The world, in all its subtle, real color, starts to seep back in. The springs of natural motivation, long since buried, begin to bubble up from the ground again. This is not mystical. It is metabolic. It is your biology fighting to return to its original powerful design. But you cannot just starve the phantom. You must feed the man. You must hack the system for yourself. You must consciously, deliberately walk new trails. You must seek the hard rewards. Lift a weight, run until your lungs burn. Lose yourself in a difficult skill. Create something, anything, with your hands. Relearn the delayed, earned, authentic dopamine hit of real achievement. You must reconnect, not with a screen, but with a face, a voice. You must sit in the awkward, terrifying silence of real conversation. You must relearn how to be bored, and in that boredom, find the spark of your own imagination again. This is the work. This is the rebuilding, day by day, choice by choice. You are not just quitting a habit. You are a sculptor, and the living clay is your own mind. You are carving away the shape of the addict to reveal the man underneath. There will be pain, withdrawal. The chattering, screaming ghosts of 1,000 memories will beg for one more hit. They will tell you it is harmless. They will tell you you cannot win. They are the last desperate whispers of a dying trail. Let them scream. Your silence is your answer. Your action is your rebuttal. Every time you choose the cold shower over the warm fantasy, you are laying new wire. Every time you choose the genuine, fumbling conversation over the solitary click, you are pouring concrete on a new path. Every time you feel a real, earned sense of pride in a hard day's work, you are proving to your own reward circuit that there is a better, truer master to serve. This is your power, the power they never told you about. The terrifying truth has a counterpart, a terrifying hope. You are not broken. You are adapted to a poison, and you can adapt back. The cage door was never locked from the outside. You have been holding it shut yourself, mistaking the familiar bars for the shape of the sky. The choice is now, and it is final. Will you remain a prisoner of the pathways you were sold, or will you pick up the tools of your own neuroplasticity and begin, right now, in the silence after my voice fades, the long, hard, glorious work of building a new mind?